The latest chapter of the Cowboys-Eagles rivalry takes place tonight in South Philly with more than bragging rights on the line. Good evening, Eagles fans, and welcome to the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Chris McPherson, joined alongside Fran Duffy as the Eagles are getting ready to take on the Dallas Cowboys in prime time, and there's no love lost between these two teams whatsoever. However, it is the first meaningful game between these two squads in Philly in 3 seasons. Now, there are so many juicy storylines to get into. There's even a little fisticuffs, already some trash talk going on the field at Lincoln Financial Field. We're going to get into all of it over the next half hour, but the big news this week was just before the trade deadline. The Eagles acquired Golden Tate from the Detroit Lions. Tonight, he makes his debut in the all-black uniform. So, Fran, what can we expect from number 19? How much are we going to see of him in his first game?
I think we're going to see plenty because the Eagles didn't give up a third-round pick in next year's draft just to work him in slowly. Now, I'm not going to say that he's going to catch 11 passes for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, but I think we're going to see plenty of Golden Tate here tonight, and I do think that he's going to have an impact, and we'll get to that a little bit later.
I think your bold prediction might actually hint towards that later on in the show. We'll get to that a whole lot more, but let's send it over to the lake now. Enough of us. Let's check out the players warming up, and as you see there, the all-black jerseys looking tremendous as the Eagles get ready to take on the Dallas Cowboys. So it could actually be a funeral for Dallas. They're coming to this game 3-5. There's speculation about head coach Jason Garrett, his future, and the future of the coaching staff. But the bottom line for the Eagles, as we look at the offense, they need to score points.
Yes.
Okay, they've only scored more than 24 points once all season. That was in a game against the Giants. How does Tate fit in with the offense to help make that a reality?
I think really we're going to see him used in a lot of different ways, and some of the ways that we've seen him used over the course of his career. Yeah, quick game. We're going to see him jet sweeps and wide receiver screens, but don't be surprised if he's used vertically. Don't be surprised if he's used on deep crossing routes over the middle of the field. And how I expect him to impact the rest of this offense, well, you look at Nelson Agholor, I think that kind of opens him up to be able to use more vertically down the field. You know, some of the things that they wanted to get from Mike Wallace, I think now Nelson is open more to do some of those kinds of things. I'm excited to see how this Eagles offense looks here tonight. All
right, there's number 19 right there, Golden Tate. Remember, he went off against the Dallas Cowboys as a member of the Lions back in September. Can he do the same tonight? We're going to be talking a lot about Golden Tate throughout the course of the show. Now, let's take a look at the starting lineup, and great news for the Eagles and the fans. Hey, Golden Tate is right there in the starting lineup, but there is a notable absence at right tackle. All-Pro Lane Johnson suffered a knee injury in London against the Jaguars. He is out. Big V, Halapoulivaati Vaitai gets a start. And Fran, that's a huge matchup because you can argue the best player suiting up for the Cowboys on defense is pass rush and DeMarcus Lawrence, who will be going against Vaitai.
That is the biggest matchup, and I think the most critical one for this Eagles team on either side of the football. You cannot let DeMarcus Lawrence wreck this game. I expect the Eagles to give Big V some help, as they typically do. You'll see some slide protections his way, so offensive linemen kind of helping him out, but more importantly, some tight ends and running backs chipping out of the backfield on their way into the routes. I expect to see plenty of that here tonight.
All right, no Darren Sproles for the Eagles. He suffered a setback in practice this week, so again, it's the young trio of Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood, and Josh Adams. No Sean Lee for the Cowboys. What does that mean for Dallas?
It used to mean disaster, and people have used to say, oh, Dak Prescott's not doing well because Sean Lee's out of the lineup. I don't think that that's the case anymore with this defense, though. I think when you look at those two young linebackers, Jalen Smith, a former second-round pick, and this year's first-round pick, Leighton Vander Esch, the Cowboys really have come to have a really excellent group of linebackers there. With those two guys, I think that's something they want to build off of. To me, for the Eagles, they want to try and confuse them and try and do some different things in the backfield with misdirection, hit them over the top. That's one of the things I would expect to see.
All right, let's transition to the Eagles' defense, and there are multiple injuries impacting the secondary with corners Jalen Mills and Sidney Jones out. Now, the Cowboys, they also got themselves a wide receiver in Amari Cooper just before the trade deadline. He had a touchdown in his debut on Monday night against Tennessee. What have you seen from the Cowboys in terms of how they utilize Cooper against the Titans?
Yeah, this is an offense that relies mostly on isolation routes, and that means that they need their receivers to win one-on-one. Amari Cooper is that kind of player. He's one of the best route runners in football. His ability to create separation with his feet, with his technique, is one of the best in the league. So whether he lines up outside or in the slot, expect him to try and be used in that manner. It will be up to this Eagles secondary to make sure he is not able to do that. But more importantly, that defense has to get home, the defensive line, to Dak Prescott. Don't let him feel comfortable to be able to deliver the football to Amari.
Lots of blitzing 2 weeks ago in London against Blake Bortles. You wonder if it'll be the same strategy against Dak Prescott. Now, we all talk about Amari Cooper and his impact on the Cowboys offense. Cole Beasley coming out of the slot is someone the Eagles must account for, and we have to wait to see who's going to be in the slot with Sidney Jones out. Do they put the rookie Avonte Maddox, who's thrived at safety, back there, or do they bring in Crevon LeBlanc, who was acquired off waivers from the Lions earlier this week?
And you also could have the veteran Malcolm Jenkins, who has been in that matchup before, that could serve that role. Corey Graham is back in the lineup, so they do have more depth at safety. It's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do there with that matchup.
All right, the energy at the link is certainly going to be electric, so let's send it back over there and bring in the insider himself, Dave Spadero and Amy Campbell, for their storylines to watch, as well as some bold predictions.
Thank you very much, Chris. And we could talk about storylines all night long, but we won't take too much of your time. Amy, why don't you begin?
Well, obviously, I have to start with Golden Tate, the big story, the Eagles wide receiver addition. How do they use him? How does he open up the offense for other people? Nelson Agholor specifically, a lot of questions this week about where Nelson will be used with Golden Tate, because both are kind of really productive there in the slot. How is that going to work? Will both players be even more productive together, the sum being greater than the parts? I'm just excited to see what he looks like, especially against a Dallas team that's going to be without Sean Lee, and that makes a really big difference for their defense.
Yeah, my focus is going to be on the Eagles' defense and stopping not only Ezekiel Elliott in the run game, but also Dak Prescott, who averages 30 yards a game on the ground with his legs. So the Eagles, who are down 2 cornerbacks against the Cowboys' passing game, also have to concern themselves, I think, very much with the Cowboys' run game. Now, we've got a bold prediction, one for each of us. Again, you go first.
When you talk about containing Dak Prescott, Dak is the 3rd most sacked quarterback in the league, 28 sacks. Only one game did they protect him completely, allow 0 sacks, and that was against the New York Giants. So I'm predicting that this Eagles defensive line gets home at least 4 sacks on Dak Prescott.
Well, in concert with that, Amy, great minds think alike here. An Eagles defense that has taken the football away only 7 times this year in 8 games takes it away 3 times in this Sunday night game tonight to start the NFC East second half the right way.
Ooh, vibe is good in here.
Yeah. Amy, time to go out in the cold. Chris, Fran, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dave and Amy. They'll also join in the fun on the post-game show presented by Rico. Okay, so let's get into our bowl predictions, and I don't want to get into the standings, okay? The past is in the past. The bye is come and gone. Can't do anything about what happened in the first 8 weeks of the season. Head coach Doug Peterson told that message to the players this week, and we're going to embrace it here on the Kickoff Show. So, Fran, we got to get you on the board here, one way or another. I'm going to let you have the floor. What do you have for your bold prediction tonight?
Well, my bold prediction last time the Eagles played was that Nelson Agholor would have a catch of 40-plus yards, and of course, he comes up with a 39-yard catch. I fully expected if I had said he was going to have a 37-yard reception, it would have gone for 36 yards. But nonetheless, I do expect Golden Tate for the first game of his Eagles career to reach the end zone for a touchdown, which means you could expect him to get tackled at the 1-yard line on the opening drive. Well, that's just a matter of fact. But I do expect him to have a big game here tonight.
It's not all about Golden Tate. Let's not forget about the other receivers on this roster. I get it. Golden Tate is one of just 2 receivers to go over 100 yards against the Cowboys this season. The other was DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans. But I think the third comes up tonight. And I don't think it'll necessarily be Golden Tate. I think it's going to be Alshon Jeffrey. Okay, look, he had one 100-yard game already this season against Tennessee. He didn't have any of last season. He gets his second 100-yard game tonight as he feasts on the Cowboys secondary like a young kid going through Pop-Tarts as he helps propel the Eagles to a win against the Dallas Cowboys to get them above 500 and back-to-back wins, believe it or not, for the first time all season. So those are our bold predictions. You can check them off in the box right now. We're going to get back in the win column there. Fran will get there for the first time. So nonetheless, let's move on. It's time to get the players to watch from the Hall of Fame duo of Mel Reese and Mike Quick.
Chris, it's a beautiful, brisk, late fall night here at Lincoln Financial Field. Perfect weather for the birds and the boys. Mike, who is your player to watch?
You would expect me to say Golden Tate, but that's not my guy. When I look at this Cowboys defense, I think about their safety, Jeff Heath. I think about Damon Wilson, and I think Zach Ertz will get a lot of opportunities against that defense, and that matchup really favors the Eagles. I'm going to keep my eye on Zach Ertz tonight.
Well, that's a good pick, and I know that everyone's going to be looking for number 19, Golden Tate. However, because of what Golden Tate will do to the coverage, I am looking for number 17, Alshon Jeffrey, to have a big night.
Good call. He's going to have a lot of one-on-ones. He should have a good night.
Can't wait to see it. There is nothing like the Birds and the Boys. Back to you, Chris.
Love the juice coming from Merrill, Mike. You know that Merrill is ready. It's not just game day for him. It's Dallas week. He's ready to take on the Dallas Cowboys himself. Now, you can listen to their broadcast right here on PhiladelphiaEagles.com/live radio. And Mike Quick is going to have a one-on-one interview with Carson Wentz in just a few minutes here on the show. So let's dig into the rivalry just a little bit here. What's interesting, Fran, is in the last decade, there's really one signature moment that's taken place at the link between these two teams, and that was 44-6. Which, believe it or not, 10 years ago already.
Crazy.
You think about the big moments between these two teams that have gone the Eagles' way. You know, back in 2010, Deshaun Jackson doing the plunge into the end zone falling backwards, the 2013 NFC East Division Championship game, the Thanksgiving win. Those all took place in Dallas. So what are your thoughts here, this being the first significant, meaningful game for Dak Prescott as a Cowboy in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think when you look at Dak Prescott right now, this is a guy that's almost like a wounded animal. I think that the Eagles defense can get after him. He's not comfortable with what he's seeing back there in the pocket. He's running into bad sacks. He's making bad decisions both in the and outside the pocket. He's forcing throws. It just has not been a good season. He has not been able to get into a rhythm. That's why they felt they needed to trade for Amari Cooper. I think if this Eagles defensive line can get after Dak Prescott, it will spell good things for this team moving forward into the rest of this game, because really I think that there are many of plays that are there to be made. Remember all those games where the Eagles defensive line got after Tony Romo for multiple sacks, forced fumbles? That's the kind of game I expect here tonight.
Do you think that this is the fourth meeting, really the third meeting between Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz? Do you think this is going to be a matchup we're going to see for years to come? Because remember at the end of 2016, there were people who said, whoa, 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 whoa. Eagles made the wrong move at number 2. You know, they should have swapped out, gone for the 2-for-1, getting Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, and forgetting about Wentz.
I would lean towards it's not going to be a long-term matchup. We'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong.
How important is it for Elliott in terms of supporting Prescott and what he does with the rushing attack?
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one key. We could talk about this Eagles defense getting after Dak Prescott, and that is important, but the number one key is stopping the run. You stop Ezekiel Elliott, you stop the Dallas Cowboys.
That's the biggest thing when you watch these two here going in this matchup tonight here. So with Carson Wentz, you know, the thing with him was he was coming back from the injury, missed the first couple of games of the season. What have you seen from him, and what do you want him to see improve? Because he's done a lot of good things here through the first half of the season.
I think what Eagles fans want to see is, you know, and we don't want this to be close, but I think they want to get that Carolina taste out of their mouth, you know, where he had the ball late in the game and, you know, we have the sack fumble in the red zone and they come away with a loss. I think a late performance here, a final drive to win the game, a 2-minute drill, that would go a long way towards, you know, boosting Carson Wentz up in the eyes of Eagles fans. Obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football, even at such a young age, but I think that's something that would kind of get the crowd buzzing again.
All right, we're going to go one-on-one with Carson Wentz after the break, but remember, it is Veterans Day, and we have a special pregame festivities that we're going to show you live later on in the show. However, if you are following us on Facebook or Twitter, you need to come on over to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the Eagles app to watch the rest of the show. We'll give you a few minutes to get situated.